as I was describing in the past, when we're born, we are clear. And sometime after that, we forget. And in that forgetting, we accept the bubble of protection from our parents. It's not really, they don't give you a bubble, but it's a belief system that we take on. Like when I let go of the divine is here all the time with me, and I'm just communicating with all the time, it's more like, oh, I'm going to make phone calls. But now the bubble of, well, we're all alone, we have to figure it out, is around you. And as you grow older, it starts to become a prison that you live in without recognizing it. It seems pretty much like science fiction to a certain degree, but as we keep going through the events that we're having now in our life, where everybody felt safe all the time, it seems like everybody has a fear coming up about how they're not going to be seen, how they're going to be silenced, how they're going to be, the idea that we're going to be cancel culture. All these things speak to something much different and much more secluded that we don't have connection. And I'm as guilty of as everyone else. I find myself a lot being caught up by the outside world, which I need to have knowledge of because I need to know how people are dealing with things. But it's one thing to be neutral and observe the news. It's one thing to work with work pressures or to deal with change or to deal with my issue is time. As I told you, the issue in the past was my body's response to its immune system response to COVID, which is really about me deciding to take a bigger step. And that made me had to change my identity. I realize this is a continuing onset thing. I wake up in the morning, as I said, and I'll go straight to, I got to do this and this and this for work. Or then you'll look at the news and say, what's happened? I need to be prepared for as I walk out my door. And both of those are fine to be evaluated, but not okay to take in this side. I'm going to eat this and make it my ulcer or my problem. Now, some of us aren't in fear. Some of us feel anger. I know I've heard several people lately say they're really angry with God. Now, my sense is when I am in the fear, then I cover it up with anger when I feel like the attack's coming. But that's a defense to cover up the sadness or the anger. That's usually what I find, the sadness or the terror that I find most people have at their base root core. And then I felt myself surrounded by the darkness. And they say, you must actually reach through that darkness. You got to reach out and pray to us. So I was standing there and I started to thank them. And they said, you're not really thanking us. You're just saying thank you across the board and rushing into the bedroom through your ritual of going to going to bed. Would you please really think of being grateful? And then I looked each one of them in the eyes, and it was like shocking because as soon as I did it, and I went through all 16 of them or whatever that are there, these are my main council, I felt them. I felt them activate in my space. It was the gratitude opened the light. And I was like, oh my God, I'm standing there. And I started to, I thought it was going to go down. We didn't have any catchers in my house. I'm all alone. And I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And they said, you need to go into bed right now because you're not even close to being done. So I went in and just went straight into bed, just hopped in, the lights are off, and they said, now reach. And I meant physically. So literally I had to put my hands up in bed, and I could see that there was this wall of darkness that I'd been sitting inside. That was the cage. That was the bubble. It's a wall of fear, this whole thing of you're not going to get it done in time. The world's going to eat you alive. They're going to come and kill you, on and on. And I literally just, instead of listening to it, I literally have to have the intention of going right through it. And there they are. And as I reached into them, all of a sudden, the light started to fill in me. And they were saying, this can't happen unless you do reach out with the intention of touching the light, even in your darkest moments, because the light cannot fill us without our intention. It cannot overcome your free will. And oftentimes when we reach out, we're in fear. We're not in gratitude. Gratitude opens the door. Fear makes the wall thicker. Worry, sadness, rage make the wall thicker. And then we sit inside that bubble and get lost. And my sense is this is a great epiphany to me. I was like, what? I've been doing this for so long and I just figured this out. And that's how it works. To a certain degree, we're not ready to learn what we're learning until it's time for the learning. So don't be upset at yourself that it's taking this long. Don't be scared. Instead, what we need to do is understand the only way through this is through gratitude. Gratitude is the wine for the soul. So go on and get drunk. And in terms of Padre and Bobby and I, we're trying to be that representative in that vehicle. Drinks are in the house today. The idea is we go back to the well. Do you want a well drink? Type of thing. Go back to the well to drink over and over. But it's done through the gratitude, and then we come into the remembering. So today, could you consider for a second to first, for those of you that aren't aware of it, would you be aware of the emotional state that's keeping you captive? Is it fear? Is it sadness? Is it judgment? Is it anger? Or is it a type of false joy where you're just really happy, but there's no real connection to the source? Because false happiness can't last. All you need is, a big bill that you can't pay, or an environmental event that scares the crap out of you, the death of somebody close to you that shocks you, and all of a sudden that happiness is out the window. Which one are you really willing to attempt to go through today? Secondly, let's put that to the side. Can you find a devoted being that you feel is there for you? Jesus, Buddha, Mary, I don't really care who it is. Just at least one. At least in my school, we have Herc, or here at Celebrating Life, we have Raphael, Archangel Raphael. Could you reach out and really meet them to thank them instead of just thanking them, like, thank you, which is kind of like I can't even look in your eyes. The divine doesn't want that. It wants us to look it right in the eyes and feel, because the eyes are the root to the soul, to the heart. And when we take in their eyes, our heart is bared. So can you imagine today the being that you would like to say hello to? Thank you for being in my life. Thank you so much for all the ways that you try to help me. And I'm open now to reaching to you as I surrender this darkness. Because if you try to say, help me with my darkness, like I said earlier, you're holding on to it, and we can't take it out of your hands because you're like Charlton Heston in the NRA. You're not going to get this gun out of me. Even with my dead cold crying, I can never remember how he said it. It was beautiful how he said it. It was like a bumper sticker moment, but that's how we deal with our negative fears and emotions. We're afraid to show it to God. We're ashamed. God already knows. So do our friends. So why don't we just go, God, I love you. I need you. I'm so grateful for you. And I'm reaching for you now.